The morning sun cast long shadows across New Haven Colony as Lisa Murphy walked through the busy streets. The settlement buzzed with activity as 50,000 people went about their daily lives. Children ran to school while their parents headed to work in the mines and farms. No one knew that death was coming from the stars. Lisa stopped at the central plaza and checked her tablet. The mining operation was ahead of schedule, and the new hydroponics lab was almost ready. After 3 years as colony administrator, she had seen New Haven grow from a small outpost into a thriving community. Families had moved here from Earth seeking a better life, and they had built something beautiful on this distant world. High above the planet, Commander Jake Harrison floated in the control room of Orbital Station Alpha. He watched the sensor displays with tired eyes. Space was mostly empty out here on the galaxy's edge. Earth was 12 light-years away, and the nearest human colony was 4 light-years in the other direction. They were alone among the stars, or so they thought. Jake's younger brother Sam worked at the sensor station nearby. At 25, Sam was 10 years younger than Jake, but he had quick hands and a sharp mind for technology. The brothers had grown up on Mars before joining the Earth Defense Force together. Jake worried about Sam being so far from home, but the young man loved the adventure of frontier duty. "Jake, you need to see this," Sam called out suddenly. His voice carried a note of concern that made Jake push off from his chair and float over to the sensor console. The display showed 12 massive objects dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Each one was over 3 kilometers long, shaped like a spear with glowing engines at the back. Jake had never seen ships like these before. They were not human vessels. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked, his mouth suddenly dry. "At their current speed, about 6 hours." Sam replied, "Jake, these ships are huge. Much bigger than anything we have." Jake activated the emergency communication system. Within minutes, every human facility in the system was on alert. Down on New Haven, Lisa received the warning signal and felt her heart skip a beat. First contact with aliens was supposed to be a moment of celebration and wonder. The massive warships on the scanner suggested otherwise. Admiral Kexthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion Spear. The Zephyrian commander was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled a galactic empire for over 2,000 years. They controlled 10,000 star systems and hundreds of different alien races. The humans were just another primitive species to be conquered. "Admiral, the human settlements are powering up their defenses," reported his tactical officer. Kexthara laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Defenses? Look at their pathetic stations. We could destroy them with a single shot from our smallest ship." The Zephyrian fleet had been exploring this sector when they discovered the human colonies. Intelligence reports showed that humans had spread across only 12 star systems in the past century. Their technology was crude, their military was weak, and their population was small. To the vast Zephyrian empire, humanity looked like easy prey. "Open a communication channel to all human facilities," Kexthara ordered. Lisa was in the colonies. Emergency Command Center when the alien transmission came through. The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Kexthara. When he spoke, the translation software turned his words into English. "Primitive humans," the alien began, his voice cold and commanding. "I am Admiral Kexthara of the Zephyrian Empire. This sector of space now belongs to us by right of superior civilization. You will surrender immediately and submit to imperial rule." Lisa stepped forward, her hands shaking but her voice steady. "Admiral, I'm Lisa Murphy, administrator of New Haven Colony. We had no idea this space was claimed by your empire. We're willing to discuss territorial boundaries and establish diplomatic relations." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed with contempt. You mistake our announcement for a negotiation. We do not bargain with inferior species. You have one choice: surrender or die. Please, Lisa continued. We're peaceful people. We have families here, children. Surely we can find a solution that works for everyone. Kexthara's response was swift and brutal. Your weakness disgusts me. Perhaps a demonstration will make our position clear. The communication ended abruptly. On his flagship, the Admiral turned to his weapons officer. Target their orbital station, destroy it. Jake saw the energy build up on his sensors moments. Before the beam struck, the brilliant lance of light cut through orbital station Beta like a knife through paper. The station exploded in a ball of fire, taking 300 people with it. Among the dead was Lieutenant Sam Harrison. Jake screamed his brother's name as debris from the station scattered across space. Bodies floated in the void, testament to Zephyrian cruelty. The aliens had destroyed a civilian facility without warning, killing innocent people to make a point. The second transmission from Kexthara arrived an hour later. This time, the aliens' message was brief and final. You have 24 hours to surrender completely. Every human in this system will submit to Zephyrian rule or face total destruction. We will accept nothing less than absolute obedience. The transmission ended with footage of the orbital station's destruction. The message was clear: resist and die. Lisa stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. She had to evacuate the civilians to the underground shelters, but there was nowhere to run. The Zephyrian ships could destroy the planet from orbit if they chose. She activated the colony's emergency protocols and began moving people to safety. Jake composed a desperate message to Earth, knowing it would take weeks for any response to arrive. He included all the sensor data about the alien ships and a recording of the Admiral's ultimatum. If humanity survived this encounter, they would need to know what they were facing. As the hours passed, the Zephyrian fleet moved closer to New Haven. The aliens broadcast continuous messages demanding surrender, but Lisa refused to respond. She would not hand over 50,000 innocent people to these monsters without a fight. The colony's defenses were pitiful compared to the alien warships, but Lisa ordered every weapon online anyway. If the Zephyrians wanted New Haven, they would have to take it by force. The people of the colony prepared for battle, knowing they faced impossible odds. In the underground shelters, families huddled together in fear. Parents held their children close and tried to stay brave. Above them, the first shots of humanity's war with the galaxy had already been fired. The Zephyrian Empire had made the first move, destroying a civilian station and threatening innocent lives. They expected the humans to surrender quickly, as so many other species had done before. But Admiral Kexthara had no idea what he had just started. Humanity was about to respond, and their answer would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. The emergency meeting began at dawn in the Global Defense Council chambers deep beneath Geneva. President Rachel Stone sat at the head of the long table, her face calm despite the terrible news from New Haven. Around her, the most powerful people on Earth argued about how to respond to humanity's first contact with hostile aliens. We need to mobilize every ship we have, shouted Secretary of Defense Monica Walsh, her fist hitting the table. Those alien monsters killed 300 of our people without warning. This is war. General Paul Carter shook his head grimly. Our entire fleet wouldn't last 5 minutes against those ships. The sensor data shows they have weapons and shields far beyond our technology. We need time to prepare. Time we don't have, Monica shot back. They've given New Haven 24 hours to surrender. How long before they attack other colonies? President Stone raised her hand for silence. The room fell quiet as all eyes turned to her. At 60 years old, she had led Earth through many crises, but nothing like this. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her blue eyes held a steel that few people had ever seen. "Colonel Rodriguez," she said quietly, "show them the files." Colonel Ben Rodriguez stood up from his seat near the back of the room. He was a thin man with dark hair and worried eyes. As head of Earth's intelligence service, he knew secrets that kept him awake at night. Today, he would share the biggest secret of all. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ben began, activating a holographic display in the center of the room. "What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. Project Silent Thunder has been operating for 30 years under direct presidential authority." The hologram showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of tiny dots marked star systems, and colored lines showed trade routes and communication networks. But what caught everyone's attention were the small red markers scattered throughout alien space. "We've been watching them," Ben continued. "All of them. Every major civilization in the galaxy has been under observation by automated probes for decades. We know where they live, how they think, and what they're capable of." The room erupted in shocked voices. Several council members demanded to know why they hadn't been told about this massive program. President Stone waited for the noise to die down before speaking. "We kept it secret because knowledge like this is dangerous," she explained. "If other nations had known we could spy on alien civilizations, they would have demanded access to the technology. Wars would have been fought over it." Dr. Amy Chun stepped forward from her position near the wall. She was a small woman with black hair and thick glasses, but her mind was one of the sharpest on Earth. As the lead scientist for Project Silent Thunder, she had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. "The probes use quantum entanglement for instant communication across any distance," Amy explained. "We can watch events happening thousands of light years away in real time. More importantly, we can send messages instantly to any point in the galaxy." "What kind of messages?" asked Monica, her anger replaced by curiosity. President Stone smiled for the first time since the meeting began. It was not a pleasant expression. "The kind that will make our new alien friends reconsider their attack on New Haven." 20 minutes. Later, President Stone sat alone in her private office, composing the most important message in human history. Captain Tony Rivera waited nearby, ready to transmit her words across the galaxy using quantum burst technology that the aliens couldn't intercept or block. The message was short and simple, written in clear language that the translation computers would handle easily. President Stone identified herself as the leader of humanity and acknowledged the attack on New Haven. She expressed regret that first, contact had begun with violence instead of peaceful communication. Then came the part that would change everything. "Admiral Kexthara," she wrote, "your private estate on Zephyr Prime is located at coordinates 47.2341 north, 156.7829 west. The building has 4 levels, with your family quarters on the 2nd floor. Your mate Ciliana enjoys morning tea in the garden at sunrise, while your offspring Velkath attends the military academy in the capital city." The message continued with precise details about the Admiral's personal life, information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. President Stone described the layout of his home, the names of his servants, and even the location of his private safe, where he kept his family's ancient ceremonial weapons. "We know where you live, Admiral," the message concluded. "All of you. Every member of your government, every commander in your fleet, every citizen of your empire. We have been watching and learning for 30 years. This is your only warning. Captain." Tony Rivera read the message twice before looking up at the president with wide eyes. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? It's basically a threat against their entire civilization." "It's not a threat, Captain," President Stone replied calmly. "It's a statement of fact. We do know where they all live. Whether we choose to act on that knowledge depends entirely on their next move. The quantum transmission fired across the galaxy in an instant, bypassing every security system the Zephyrian Empire possessed. The message appeared simultaneously on every government terminal, every military command center, and every communication hub throughout their territory. On his flagship, Admiral Kexthara was reviewing attack plans when his personal communication device activated without authorization. No one should have been able to access his private channel, especially not primitive humans from an isolated star system. The Admiral read the message once, then again, his forearms trembling with rage and fear. How could these pathetic creatures know such details about his private life? His estate was protected by the best security the Empire could provide. His family's location was classified information known only to a few trusted officials. Impossible, he whispered, but the evidence was right there on his screen. The humans had somehow penetrated the most secure systems in the galaxy and obtained information that should have been beyond their reach. Similar scenes played out across the Zephyrian Empire as government officials and military commanders received their own personalized messages. Each one contained intimate details about their lives, their families, and their secret activities. The psychological impact was devastating. Emperor Vox then himself received the most detailed message of all, delivered directly to his private chambers in the Imperial Palace. The human president had included architectural plans of the entire complex, including sections that weren't on any official blueprint. She knew about secret passages, hidden rooms, and emergency bunkers that had been built centuries ago. The Emperor stared at the message for a long time, his mind struggling to process the implications. If the humans could gather this level of intelligence about the Empire's most protected secrets, what else were they capable of? On New Haven, Lisa Murphy received a coded transmission from Earth just hours before the Zephyrian deadline expired. The message was brief, but filled her with hope. Help is coming. Prepare for unexpected events. Do not surrender. She didn't understand what Earth could possibly do against the massive alien fleet, but she trusted her government. If they said help was coming, she would believe them. Admiral Kexthara stood on his bridge as the deadline approached, but his confidence had been shaken by the human message. His tactical officers waited for orders to begin the bombardment of New Haven, but something held him back. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving priority messages from the High Council. They want to speak with you immediately." The Admiral's heart sank. If the High Council was involved, it meant the human message had reached the highest levels of government. His simple conquest mission had suddenly become a galactic incident dot as the 24-hour deadline passed without an attack. The people of New Haven emerged from their shelters to see the alien ships still hanging in space above them. Something had changed, but they didn't know what. Across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire's leadership was discovering that their supposedly primitive enemies had been watching them from the shadows for decades. The humans had turned the tables. Without firing a shot, using information as a weapon more powerful than any gun. The first move had been made by the Zephyrian Empire, but humanity's response would prove that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones you never see coming. Admiral Kexthara paced back and forth on his bridge, his forearms clenched in frustration. The human message had been delivered 12 hours ago, and since then his secure communication system had been flooded with angry calls from the High Council. Every high-ranking official in the Empire was demanding to know how primitive aliens had obtained classified information about their personal lives. "Admiral," his communications officer called out nervously, "Emperor Vox then himself wishes to speak with you." Kexthara's blood turned cold. A direct call from the Emperor was never good news, especially when a military operation had gone wrong. He straightened his uniform and activated the secure channel. The Emperor's face appeared on the main screen, his golden eyes burning with fury. "Explain to me, Admiral, how these humans know the location of my private meditation chamber. Explain how they obtained blueprints of rooms that don't appear on any official record." "Your Majesty," Kexthara began, "I don't understand it myself. Our intelligence reports showed that humans were a primitive species with limited technology. This level of surveillance capability should be impossible for them. Yet here we are," the Emperor replied coldly. "Every member of the High Council has received detailed information about their families and private lives. The humans have somehow been watching us for years without our knowledge. This changes everything." The Admiral felt his career slipping away. "Sir, I request permission to proceed with the attack on New Haven. Once we eliminate this threat, we can investigate how they obtained their intelligence." "You will do no such thing," the Emperor snapped. "The High Council is meeting in emergency session to discuss this situation. Until we understand what we're dealing with, you will take no further action against the humans." The communication ended abruptly, leaving Kexthara alone with his doubts. For the first time in his military career, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The human response had been so calm and precise that it suggested they were not afraid of his fleet. That possibility scared him more than he wanted to admit. Down on New Haven, Lisa Murphy stood in the colony's command center watching the alien ships through the main viewer. The massive vessels hung in space like sleeping giants, their weapons trained on the planet below. But something had changed. The constant stream of surrender demands had stopped, and the aliens seemed to be waiting for something. "Any word from Earth?" she asked Jake Harrison, who had come down from the damaged orbital station. "Nothing official," Jake replied, "but I've been monitoring their communications. The aliens are definitely talking to someone back home. There. Message traffic has increased tenfold in the last few hours." Kate Phillips, the colony's chief engineer, looked up from her tactical display. "Whatever Earth did, it's got them rattled. My sensors show increased activity on their ships, but they're not moving into attack position." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. The humans had bought time somehow, but she didn't know how much. She activated the colony-wide communication system, too. Addressed the 50,000 people who were depending on her leadership. "Citizens of New Haven," she began, "the immediate threat of attack is past, but we're not out of danger yet. Continue following emergency protocols and stay ready to move to the shelters if necessary. Earth is working on a solution to this crisis." She hoped she sounded more confident than she felt. The alien ships were still there, still capable of destroying the colony in minutes. But something had changed the dynamic of the situation, and she intended to use whatever time they had been given. On Earth, Director Alex Thompson stood in a vast underground facility that officially didn't exist. Project Silent Thunder's hidden. Factories stretched for kilometers beneath the Canadian wilderness, humming with activity as thousands of automated systems worked around the clock. "Production is ahead of schedule," reported his assistant, Dr. Carol Wright. "The first squadron of Phantom-class ships will be ready for deployment in 72 hours. Alex nodded as he watched the assembly lines through reinforced windows. The ships being built looked nothing like traditional human vessels. They were smaller, sleeker, and incorporated technology that had been developed by studying alien designs. For decades, each one was designed to fight opponents who vastly outnumbered humanity. "What about the quantum drives?" he asked. "All systems tested and operational," Carol replied. "The ships can phase in and out of normal space at will. The aliens won't be able to track them using conventional sensors." The Phantom ships represented humanity's answer to the alien threat. Unable to match the enemy's numbers or raw firepower, human engineers had focused on stealth, speed, and precision. Each ship was equipped with weapons that could punch through alien shields and armor using quantum tunneling technology. "Begin moving the first ships to staging areas," Alex ordered. "If this situation escalates, we need to be ready." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire's intelligence services were in chaos. Director Molvok had been in charge of Imperial security for 20 years, but he had never faced a challenge like this. His best analysts were trying to understand how the humans had penetrated their most secure systems. "Sir," one of his technicians reported, "we found evidence of unauthorized access to our communication networks going back at least 15 years. The intrusions were so subtle that our security systems never detected them." Molvok studied the data with growing alarm. The humans hadn't just hacked into their computers. They had been living inside their information systems like invisible parasites. Every government communication, every military report, every personal message had potentially been monitored by human intelligence. "How many systems are compromised?" he asked. "All of them, sir," the technician replied quietly. "Every major government and military installation shows signs of human infiltration. They've been watching everything we do." The implications were staggering. If the humans had been monitoring Imperial communications for years, they knew about military strategies, political disputes, and even personal scandals among the leadership. They had a complete picture of the Empire's strengths and weaknesses. Back on New Haven, the colonists were making the most of their unexpected reprieve. Kate Phillips had organized work crews to strengthen the underground shelters and improve the colony's defenses. She knew they couldn't stop the alien fleet, but she was determined to make any attack as costly as possible. "How many mining charges do we have left?" she asked her assistant, Mike Johnson. "About 2,000, Mike replied. "I've been thinking we could use them to create choke points in the tunnels. If the aliens send ground troops, we can channel them into kill zones." Kate nodded approvingly. The mining equipment could be converted into weapons, and the underground tunnel system could become a maze of death traps. If the Zephyrians wanted to take New Haven, they would have to fight for every meter of ground. "What about the families?" she asked. "The deepest shelters can hold everyone," Mike assured her. "We've got food and water for 2 weeks, maybe 3. If we're careful. The aliens will have to dig us out if they want to get to the civilians." As the hours passed, tension mounted throughout both human and Zephyrian space. The aliens had expected a quick victory followed by easy conquest, but instead they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Emperor Vox then convened another emergency session of the High Council, this time in the palace's most secure chamber. The room was shielded against every known form of surveillance. Yet the assembled officials couldn't shake the feeling that human eyes were somehow watching them even here. "We have 3 options," the Emperor announced to his advisors. "We can proceed with the attack and risk escalation with an enemy whose capabilities we don't understand. We can withdraw and appear weak to the rest of the galaxy. Or we can attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution." High Counselor Jektar spoke first. Negotiation would set a dangerous precedent. If other species learn that they can intimidate the Empire through intelligence gathering, our authority will be undermined. But continuing the attack could be even more dangerous, countered Counselor Yilmesh. These humans have proven they can penetrate our most secure systems. What else might they be capable of? The debate continued for hours, but no clear consensus emerged. The Empire's leaders were paralyzed by uncertainty, unable to move forward or back down without losing face. On his flagship, Admiral Kexthara received new orders that reflected the government's indecision. Maintain position, but take no aggressive action until further notice. He was to wait and watch while the politicians decided humanity's fate. The Admiral stared out at the stars and wondered what other surprises the humans might have in store. They had already proven that appearances could be deceiving. What looked like a primitive species on the galaxy's edge had turned out to be something far more dangerous. As the standoff entered its second day, both sides prepared for an uncertain future. The Zephyrian Empire had made the first move, but humanity's response had changed the rules of the game entirely. The standoff at New Haven had lasted 3 days when Emperor Voxthen made his decision. Facing pressure from military commanders who demanded action and politicians who feared the unknown, he chose to show strength. The order went out across the galaxy. Assemble the largest fleet in Imperial history and crush the human threat before it could spread. Admiral Kexthara received the new orders with mixed feelings. Part of him was relieved to finally have clear direction, but another part worried about what they might be walking into. The humans had already proven they were not what they seemed. "How many ships are coming?" asked his tactical officer. 3,000, Kexthara replied grimly. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels from every sector of the Empire. Supreme Admiral Drakmar himself will command the fleet. The news spread quickly through both the Zephyrian fleet and the human colonies. On New Haven, Lisa Murphy called an emergency meeting of the Colony Council. The faces around the table were grim as she shared the intelligence they had received from Earth. "They're bringing everything they have," she announced. "Our satellites show ships moving toward this system from all across their territory. They'll be here in 5 days. Jake Harrison leaned forward in his chair. "What about Earth's response?" "Surely they're not going to abandon us." "Earth has sent a message," Lisa replied, pulling up the communication on her tablet. "They're asking for 72 more hours. Something called Operation Sunrise is being prepared, but they won't give us details." Kate Phillips studied the technical data about the approaching alien fleet. 3,000 ships against our 12 colonies. Even if Earth sends every vessel they have, will be outnumbered 100 to 1. "Maybe that's not the point," suggested Dr. Robert Chun, the colony's chief scientist. "Earth's strategy seems to focus on information and intelligence rather than brute force. Perhaps they have something else in mind." Meanwhile, in the hidden depths of Project Silent Thunder's main facility, Captain Susan Lee stood before her. New command. The Earth defense ship Retribution was unlike any vessel ever built by human hands. Only 90 meters long, it looked tiny compared to the massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts, but appearances were deceiving. "The quantum drive is fully operational," reported Chief Engineer Danny Clark. "We can phase shift anywhere within 1,000 kilometers instantly. The aliens won't be able to predict our position." Susan nodded as she reviewed the ship's specifications. The Retribution was equipped with quantum torpedoes that could bypass alien shields entirely, targeting the enemy ships from inside their own defensive barriers. The weapons were devastating but limited. They could only carry 20 torpedoes at a time. "What about the rest of the squadron?" she asked. 15 ships total, Danny replied, each one equipped with the same technology. "We might be outnumbered, but we'll have advantages they can't counter." The human fleet was laughably small by galactic standards, but every ship incorporated lessons learned from 30 years of studying alien technology. They were built to fight smarter, not harder. On the other side of the galaxy, Supreme Admiral Drakmar reviewed his battle plans aboard the massive command ship Eternal Victory. At 5 kilometers long, his flagship was larger than most human space stations. The combined firepower of his fleet could destroy entire planets, and he intended to make an example of humanity that would discourage other species from challenging the Empire. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we're still receiving unauthorized transmissions on our secure channels." The humans continued to demonstrate their surveillance capabilities. Drakmar dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Let them watch. When we finish with their pathetic colonies, Their spy network will die with them. How long until the fleet is assembled? 48 hours, sir. All units are converging on the rally point as ordered. The Supreme Admiral smiled coldly. He had fought dozens of campaigns against rebellious species, and none had survived the full might of the Imperial fleet. The humans would learn what happened to those who dared to threaten the Zephyrian Empire. But across the galaxy, other events were unfolding that would change the nature of the conflict. In a secure facility on Mars, Agent Carol Wright made final preparations for the most dangerous mission in human history. She had spent 5 years training for this moment, learning Zephyrian language and culture until she could pass for a native. The genetic modifications are stable, reported Dr. Amy. Chun, checking Carol's readings one final time. You'll be able to maintain the disguise for up to 2 weeks. Carol looked at herself in the mirror and saw a perfect Zephyrian face staring back. The advanced holographic projector, implanted under her skin, could fool even close inspection. Wow. Chemical treatments had altered her scent and body chemistry to match alien norms. Remember, Amy continued, your mission is intelligence gathering only. Get close to their leadership, confirm their intentions, and report back. Do not engage in offensive action unless absolutely necessary. Carol nodded and stepped into the quantum transport chamber. She would be the first human to set foot on the Zephyrian homeworld, traveling instantly across the galaxy through technology the aliens didn't know existed. On New Haven, the colonists made their final preparations for the coming battle. The underground shelters were fully stocked with food and medical supplies, while Kate Phillips had turned the tunnel system into a maze of defensive positions. Mining equipment had been converted into weapons, and every adult colonist had been trained in basic combat techniques. If they want our world, they'll have to take it room by room, Kate told her volunteers. We can't stop their fleet, but we can make them pay for every step forward. Children were moved to the deepest shelters, while adults prepared to fight. They all knew the odds were hopeless, but they also knew that surrender meant slavery or death. Better to die free than live as slaves to alien masters. Jake Harrison coordinated the colony's communications, maintaining contact with other human settlements throughout the region. Every colony was preparing for attack, but they were also sharing information and resources. If one settlement fell, the others would learn from their mistakes. Any word from the outer colonies? Lisa asked during one of their planning sessions. New. Berlin reports unusual activity in their system, Jake replied. Ships appearing and disappearing too quickly for their sensors to track. Could be advanced scouts for the main alien fleet. What Jake didn't know was that the mysterious ships were actually human vessels conducting reconnaissance missions. The Phantom-class ships were testing their stealth capabilities against Zephyrian sensors, gathering data that would be crucial in the coming battle. Captain Nick Foster piloted one of these scout ships through the outer edges of the New Haven system. His vessel was completely invisible to alien detection systems, allowing him to observe their preparations without being discovered. Target analysis complete, he reported to Earth Command. The alien fleet is organized into standard battle formations. They're not expecting resistance from stealth vessels. The information flowed back to Earth, where tactical computers analyzed every detail of the alien deployment. Human strategists had been studying Zephyrian military doctrine for years, and they knew exactly how to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. Colonel Steve Martinez oversaw the preparation of ground defenses on Mars, which intelligence suggested would be the aliens' next target after New Haven. Unlike the colonists, Mars had significant military installations and could mount a proper defense. How many troops can we deploy? He asked his staff. 50,000 combat-ready soldiers, replied Major Linda Thompson, plus another 100,000 militia volunteers. We've turned every major city into a fortress. The red planet's unique. Geography favored defensive operations. The underground tunnel networks, originally built for mining, could hide entire armies, while the thin atmosphere would interfere with alien sensors and communications dot as the hours counted down to the arrival of the Zephyrian fleet. Both sides made their final preparations. The aliens expected overwhelming victory through superior numbers and technology. The humans prepared to show them that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are those who refuse to fight by conventional rules. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of humanity and shake the foundations of the galactic order. The Zephyrian Empire had made the first move, but they were about to discover that humanity's response would be unlike anything they had ever encountered. The massive Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal locusts. 3,000 ships of every size and type spread across space in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready for battle. Supreme Admiral Drakmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that humanity's resistance would end within hours. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting only 16 human vessels in the entire system. They appear to be concentrated near the fourth planet." Drakmer laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. 16 ships against 3,000? These humans must be even more primitive than we thought. Signal the fleet to advance. We'll crush their pathetic defense and move on to their homeworld. What the Zephyrian admiral didn't know was that those 16 ships represented a technological leap that would reshape space warfare forever. Captain Susan Lee commanded the lead vessel, EDS Retribution, as it hung motionless in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon. "All ships report ready," announced her communications officer. "Quantum drives are charged and weapon systems are online." Susan studied the approaching alien fleet through her tactical display. Each enemy ship was marked and cataloged, their weaknesses identified through years of intelligence gathering. The Zephyrians moved in predictable formations, following tactics that human analysts had studied for decades. "Remember," she announced to her crew, "we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to prove that we can hurt them badly enough to make them reconsider." The Battle of Jupiter's orbit began when the Zephyrian vanguard moved within range of the human positions. Drakmer expected the tiny human fleet to either flee or surrender, but instead they simply vanished from his sensors. "Where did they go?" he demanded, staring at empty space where the enemy ships had been moments before. His sensor operator worked frantically at his console. "Sir, I'm not detecting them anywhere. It's as if they never existed." The answer came in the form of quantum torpedoes materializing inside the shields of 3 Zephyrian cruisers. The weapons bypassed the alien defenses entirely, striking the ship's reactor cores with devastating precision. 3 vessels that had seemed invincible moments before exploded in brilliant fireballs. "Impossible," Drakmer whispered as debris scattered across space. "How did they penetrate our shields?" Captain Susan Lee's ship phased back into normal space, just long enough to launch another salvo, then disappeared again before the aliens could return fire. Across the battlefield, 15 other human vessels played the same deadly game, appearing and vanishing like ghosts while their quantum weapons tore through enemy formations. Commander Nick Foster led a squadron of fighters that danced between the massive alien ships, their small size and incredible speed making them nearly impossible to target. Each pilot had trained for years in virtual reality simulations based on captured Zephyrian technology, giving them an intimate knowledge of enemy weaknesses. "Target their communication arrays," Nick ordered his squadron. "Cut off their ability to coordinate." The human fighters struck with surgical precision, destroying sensor clusters and communication equipment while avoiding the aliens' heavy weapons. Within minutes, the Zephyrian fleet found itself blind and deaf, unable to coordinate their overwhelming numbers effectively. Drakmer watched in horror as his carefully planned attack dissolved into chaos. Ships fired wildly at phantom targets, while others collided with their own allies in the confusion. The human vessels seemed to appear and disappear at will, striking without warning and vanishing before retaliation was possible. "Sir," his communications officer called out desperately, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." President Rachel Stone's face appeared on the main screen, her expression calm and professional, despite the battle raging around them. "Supreme. Admiral Drakmer, I am President Stone of the United Earth Government. I believe we need to talk." "You dare contact me while your ships attack my fleet?" Drakmer snarled. "Admiral," President Stone replied evenly, "my ships are demonstrating our defensive capabilities. If we wanted to destroy your fleet, we would have done so already. Instead, we're offering you a chance to end this conflict before it escalates." Further, as if to emphasize her point, another wave of quantum torpedoes materialized throughout the Zephyrian formation, but this time they struck non-essential systems instead of vital areas. Engines were disabled, weapons systems were knocked offline, and shield generators were overloaded, but no more ships were destroyed. "We know about your empire's internal politics," President Stone continued. "We know about the rebellion in the Outer Rim, the food shortages on your industrial worlds, and the growing unrest among your subject species. You cannot afford a prolonged war with an enemy that can strike anywhere at any time." Drakmer's 4 eyes widened with shock. The information she mentioned was classified at the highest levels of Imperial security. How could these primitive humans know about internal Empire affairs? "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Admiral," President Stone said quietly, 20 minutes ago, my agents delivered a message to Emperor Voxton in his private chambers. They walked past your best security forces and placed the communication directly on his desk while he slept. If we can do that on your most protected world, what else do you think we're capable of?" The transmission ended, leaving Drakmer staring at a blank screen. Around him, his fleet continued to take damage from an enemy they couldn't see or catch. His tactical officers reported that nearly a third of their ships had been disabled, while the human fleet remained untouched. Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, Agent Carol Wright completed the most dangerous mission in human history. Disguised as a palace servant, she had spent 3 days moving through the Imperial complex, gathering intelligence and proving that humanity could reach anyone, anywhere. The message she left for Emperor Voxton was simple but profound. Your empire attacked our colonies without cause. We responded with a warning. Now we demonstrate our reach. Choose peace or learn the true meaning of human determination. Back in the Sol system, the one-sided battle continued for another hour before Drakmer finally admitted defeat. His proud fleet lay scattered and broken, while the mysterious human ships remained untouchable. He had never faced an enemy like this in 40 years of military service. "Signal the fleet to withdraw," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "We're returning to Imperial space." "Sir," his tactical officer asked quietly, "what about our mission to destroy the human colonies?" Drakmer looked out at the debris of his once mighty fleet. "The mission has changed. We need to report back to the Emperor immediately." As the battered Zephyrian ships limped away from Earth, President Stone convened an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. The successful defense of Sol had bought them time, but she knew the real work was just beginning. "The demonstration was successful," reported Director Alex Thompson, "but the Empire won't give up easily. They'll want to negotiate from a position of strength." "Then we'll give them what they want," President Stone replied. "Captain Danny Clark, prepare the diplomatic vessel Harmony for departure. We're going to meet with their Emperor personally." 3 weeks later, representatives from both civilizations met in neutral space aboard the human ship Harmony. The vessel was small compared to Zephyrian standards, but its quantum drives and advanced defenses made it effectively untouchable. Emperor Vox then arrived with a massive escort fleet, expecting to intimidate the human negotiators through displays of power. Instead, he found himself facing President Stone across a simple conference table, her calm demeanor unshaken by the thousands of alien warships surrounding them. "Your Majesty," she began, "humanity has no desire for conflict with your empire. We seek only to live in peace and explore the galaxy without interference. Yet you possess weapons that threaten the stability of the galactic order," the Emperor replied. "Your stealth technology and surveillance capabilities could upset the balance of power that has maintained peace for centuries." President Stone nodded thoughtfully. "We developed these capabilities in response to the aggressive expansion of various galactic powers. If the Empire had approached us peacefully from the beginning, none of this would have been necessary." The negotiations continued for days, with both sides working toward a solution that would prevent future conflicts. Dr. Jennifer Ross, humanity's chief xenobiologist, proposed a cultural exchange program that would help both species understand each other better. Admiral Kexthara, stripped of his rank for starting the conflict, watched the proceedings from his prison cell. He had expected easy conquest, and instead had triggered a diplomatic revolution that would reshape galactic politics. The Treaty of Mutual Recognition was signed aboard the Harmony. 1 month after the Battle of Jupiter's orbit, the agreement established formal diplomatic relations between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire while creating protocols for peaceful contact with other species. Back on New Haven, Lisa Murphy stood in the colony's rebuilt central plaza, watching human and Zephyrian children play together in the afternoon sun. The memorial to those killed in the initial attack served as a reminder of how close both civilizations had come to total war. The Zephyrian Empire had made the first move B,